All right. So Warner Brothers Discovery is this like gigantically debt-loaded company because they did that merger. So they actually, I mean, it's kind of nuts. This is a good example of like talking about enterprise value real quick. So Chad, I want you to pay attention in case you haven't heard this for the zillionth time. I've given this lecture 100,000 times, but I'm going to do it one more time. I hope Shkreli Pill or somebody like that understands it or shows it. All right, so you got the stock price. We all understand stock price, right? Like that's just something you can keep on your screen. And in this case, it's like $8. And in fact, using Godel, if you're so inclined, let's say you're the CEO of Warner Brothers or something. Oh my God, I got so many things open. And you're like, all you care about is Warner Brothers stock. You can like, it's my favorite feature, Godel. It's such a small, lame feature, but I just love it. Like I could just make a gigantic like Warner Brothers Discovery stock price. Man, my Chroma is dying right now. It's like choking. But it's not the site's fault. It's like just been, I really need to restart my computer. But I have all these windows open. What do I do? Okay, so let's, sorry, I should start that over. I got distracted by some colleagues. All right, so you have this stock price, and it changes every second, and we kind of know why and where and when that happens, right? So that's Warner Brothers Discovery. Why it's not changing every second is another story, but it should be changing every second. Could be my computer, could be my software. Okay, it changed. So it's 798. It'll be 799 in a second from now, or 796 or whatever. So stock price is simple. That's really, really simple. Shares is a little less simple, but you can look up the shares outstanding. And really good investors know how many shares outstanding there are for all the companies in their portfolio. Challenge yourself to think, do you know how many shares outstanding there are of your favorite stock? It's important. You should know. Because that's how many shares the business is divided into. And for this company, it's this massive number. I'm going to use this probably here. It's this big number, 2.4 billion, which makes sense because like if one share is only $8, you're buying a share of a business, like that's not, a lot of money, $8. But when you see how many shares there are, well, that is a lot. So if I just own one share, just a zero turns into a one, or maybe a better way to do it is like here. Like this is how many shares there are, and this is how many I own, just one out of 2.45 billion. I don't own that much of Warner Brothers. But let's say your dad was John Warner or whatever, and he created Warner Brothers a long, long time ago, and after all of the inheritances and splits and so forth, you owned 1 million shares. What does that mean? You have $8 million, right? Because each share is $8 and you have 1 million, and you could sell them for around $8. Maybe it'd be $7.95, maybe it'll be $8.05, maybe it goes up a lot, it goes to 10, but you own 2,450th of Warner Brothers, not quite 1%. Let's say John Warner, or whatever his name is, I'm just making that name up, was very generous, and you had no brothers and sisters, and you were the sole heir, and you had 24 million shares. So what is that, chat? Like 150 million, maybe 200 million? Yeah, maybe $200 million. And you own 1% of Warner Brothers. Well, what if you owned 99% of the shares? What if you owned like, I don't know, 2.4 billion, and there was only 50 million shares publicly traded, but your shares you own like 99% of the company. Well, I would just multiply that times 8, and that would be what's called the market cap. So that's just all the shares outstanding times the current share price. And we did that earlier. That calculation came out to be 19.6 billion. So that's what this company is worth. When we say, what's the market cap? That's kind of what the company is worth. And this number is called the shares outstanding. And this number is called the stock price. And if you understand all this, like, you're actually got a good ways of like stock market 101. If you really understand this, you're sort of past stock market 101. Now stock market 102. It's going to be a little harder. And this is a really perfect company to teach the stock market 102. And stock market 102 revolves around this concept called enterprise value. So market cap is how much it would cost, right, to buy all of the shares, roughly 20 billion. And that's important because if somebody says, well, Warner Brothers makes 4 billion a year, well, that would only take me 5 years to buy, for Warner Brothers to make all of its money back for that 20 billion, if that makes sense. Like, it would be such a good deal if Warner Brothers made 4 or 5 billion a year. But if you told me Warner Brothers only makes 50 million a year, well, 50 million is a lot of money to anybody, but that would not be worth 20 billion. $50 million a year income company is maybe worth like 1 billion. So I would avoid Warner Brothers stock if that was the case. And of course, we can look at the financial statements and decide, well, what is enterprise value? Well, it's part of an equation that's really important involving cash and debt. Warner Brothers has cash and debt. Why? Well, any business has cash and debt. Debt's not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. You might borrow money to buy another company, which is what happened here. But what if you owned all those shares again? Let's go back to John Warner, and you inherited all of Warner Brothers. So you inherited every single share. And the company has cash in its bank account because it's a company, right? It has to operate. And how much cash does it have? Well, you can look it up. I looked it up in the 10Q, and it's 2.9 billion. It's a lot of money, right? And you say, hey, I own all the shares, or most of the shares of Warner Brothers. I want you to give me all that money. The CFO would have no choice but to say, okay, where should I send the money? Because it's your money. You own all of the shares outstanding. And if you went on the stock market and you had the money, maybe you're Warren Buffett, and you started clicking buy on your Robinhood, and you spent all of your money or some of your money or whatever buying every share of Warner Brothers, you actually also own the cash, right? You own all of the assets of the company. You own the movies. You own the TV channels. You own the movies that haven't been made yet. You own the video games. You own everything. And they have a lot of stuff. You own Bugs Bunny, which I think is a Warner Brothers asset. All of those things become yours. And the company's still making money and so forth. But the company also has debt. And if the company has debt, you also owe that money. Now, it does not personal recourse to you, but the business, the debt of the company is gigantic. It's $42 billion. In fact, they have more debt than the company's worth. It's pretty wild. $42 billion of debt and $3 billion of cash. So if you were to buy this company out and you tried to wire out this $3 billion, the problem is your lenders would say, wait a second, you got to pay me first. You owe $42 billion. And the business is only worth $20 billion. So the enterprise value is a way of reconciling all of this. So what we do is we do enterprise value is equal, make this a little thinner if possible. Enterprise value is the market cap, which we get from over here, the 20 billion, minus the cash plus the debt. And that's the enterprise value. What's important is to answer the question why. And there's a lot of ways to answer this question. But again, if you think about the stock as this box, when you buy a stock, you're buying a piece of the box. What's in the box? All of the company's assets, which I'll say are green, like cash, property and plant, intellectual property. But you're also buying a share of the debt, of the accounts payable, things like that. And the stuff in the box determines, in some part, what the company is worth. So if the stuff in the box is negative 39 billion of cash, you have to take that into account. That when you pay 20 billion for the box, there's negative 40 billion in the box too. So the enterprise value we calculated is 59 billion. It's $59 billion. So if the company makes $5 billion a year, it's a lot less attractive than we thought. Why? Well, we have to pay this debt off, and it's going to take us 9 years to pay that off. And then it'll start going to the cash, bank accounts, which are yours, but you still have to now get this debt lower. So the enterprise value is often what I look at instead of the market cap. Often they're pretty similar. In this case, they're wildly different because Warner Brothers has so much debt. Sorry for the basic example, but sometimes I want to make sure you understand Wall Street 2.0.